Okay, today we're going to be looking at the Stinger FD60 from Mistrall. It's a fixed spool fishing reel. We're also going to tear one down and take a look at what's inside it, because that's what counts. And all these products I'll be showing you over the next few weeks I have actually bought myself, and we'll be taking a look at a lot of other different fishing gear. All of this equipment I will be using at some point, and as I use this equipment I will put a post below the video. I'll pin the post and give you more details on it of how it fares over time, as just taking a look right at the start isn't going to tell us everything. You can get a reel that looks fantastic, you take it out and use it, and 2 days later it doesn't work anymore because it's got faults or whatever. So even just doing a quick field test isn't going to show you everything. So like I say, if I get any problems or if there's any good things or bad things, I will, like I say, put it on a post underneath the videos that we do. Anyway, let's get into it and take a look at this. So, starting off, let's start a look at the box, see what we've got here. We'll see what the advertising tells us. So apparently it's got smooth performance, balancing system, selective silent anti-reverse system, even flow chrome plated line roller, high quality felt washers, and high speed 5:1 gear ratio. So the only useful thing there is probably the gear ratio. That just tells us which one we've got. There is actually 3. We've got the largest of the range that I know of anyway. There might be another one in a different box. Okay, so you've got lightweight corrosion resistant titanium graphite construction, brass pinion gear, internal ball bail trip, and superior line lay. So that doesn't really tell us anything. It's basically what every other reel does, and this one's got 3+1 bearings. Okay, let's get into it, take a look. So you've got your reel in your bag. Let's start with this. This is your spare spool. Let's take a look at this first. Right, so you've got your spare spool. The reel holds 220 yards of 16-pound line, 170 yards of 20-pound line, and 140 yards of 24-pound line. That's a funny size, 24. Which, and if you use the other scale, 0.40 millimeters, you get 220 meters. 0.50 you get 140 meters, and 0.60 you get 100 meters. Now this spool is, as you can hear, plastic. Now, I've never really had too much problem with plastic spools, although you do get the metal ones. It's nice to have them with that bling, you might say. These aren't bad, and I'm just checking, because the only thing with the plastic spools, you get a seam, and that seam, it is slightly raised there. It's not too bad on that spool. I think it's spool to spool really, but you really don't want that. If it is a little bit rough, you're better to get yourself a little bit of sandpaper and just take the burr off of that. I know it'll take your paint off, but it'll help when you're casting. It won't keep hitching on it and slowing your cast down if you want to get a bit of distance with these. So, not much more to say about that. So, onto the reel. So, there's your reel. Again, that is actually a plastic, although it looks chrome. That is another plastic spool. The burr on that, that's fine. There's no burr on that particular one. Handle, pretty much standard handle. It's got a nice large grip to the handle. Feels rather smooth actually. Let me just tighten that up. Tighten the handle up quickly so you can see what we're dealing with. I didn't think it was tightening there for a minute, but it is. Now, the body is obviously this metal, titanium, whatever it is that they're using, which I mentioned earlier. But these parts here, these are all plastic. All the chrome bits you see, everything is plastic on it. Which, like I say, I mean, this doesn't matter. That probably doesn't matter either, and none of that. So it's nothing, like I say, the structural parts that are going to be a problem. Even this is plastic, there's only covers and that. Right. That's a bit sticky. Let's try that again. I normally you can snap the bail over. I tend to actually do it by hand anyway whenever I fish. I don't tend to use the crank handle to turn it over. Now, fixed spool reels. When you buy fixed spools, I never really buy really expensive ones. I tend to just buy, not the cheapest, obviously, because the cheapest can be terrible plastic gears and that, but I buy cheap. I mean, this is cheap. The reason being is, how long does a fixed spool last you? I mean, if you're using it in the rivers and that, it'll last you quite a long time. If you're using it in the sea and that, well, I mean, the corrosion kicks in. It always does. Quite often they'll take a dunk in the water. You might put your rod back when you're landing a fish, especially if you're on the shore. And, you know, people say, oh, this one's got 11 ball bearings in it. Well, to be honest, you don't want so many ball bearings. Your reel isn't going to last forever. The ball bearings tend to be made of steel quite often and will rot, and if they're not steel, what happens as well is you might get a tiny bit of grain of sand in, and the more ball bearings you got, the more chance you have of that happening. So 3 ball bearings, fine. You know, 4 ball bearings, that's the sort of thing I go for. I don't go for the over the top ones that put ball bearings everywhere, because it's just more problems to go wrong on the reel, even if it does make a nice smooth reel. And these things, like I say, I don't buy fixed spools to last forever. I buy these things to last 6 months, a year. If I get a couple of years out of them, fantastic. If I want a reel to last a long time, I buy a multiplier, because a multiplier is what I feel should last, because it's more of a winch. You've got to remember, this is a cranking effect, and this, when you get a large fish pulling on this and you're cranking here, this strains at funny angles and that, and it will eventually, your reel does break, you know, it will wear out. Whereas a multiplier is more efficient. It's, like I say, like a little winch, and it's basically pulling it straight onto the spool, so there's a lot less problem, and they will last a lot longer than these kind of reels. Right, so let's take a look at the drag. Oh, that's now nice and loud. You get a fish pulling off that, that'll wake you up if you're half asleep. Tighten it down. See if we can get it nice and tight, because this is another concern sometimes, is that these things don't tighten up. Now, this isn't a 100% test, because you can still tighten it down even further. Yeah, that's pretty good. We won't actually be able to fully test that until we start using it, because what you find is sometimes the washers in here compress and you can't get it as tight. In fact, if that ever happens to you, if you can add another washer in here, it sometimes helps to tighten it down. I've just done it actually on another reel which I was having problems with. So anyway, all in all, it looks okay. Like I say, it looks pretty good. It's nothing over the top, but like I say, it's not an expensive reel. You've got your reverse as well, if you ever use that. I pretty much don't. The only time I've ever used it is if my line's gone around the spool or something, I just need to wind it back, that's about it. Some people use it though, some people fish like that. So anyway, so far it's looking not bad. Now, the top, there's practically no give or rock, very, very, very slight amount, but barely anything on that. So that's a nice tight fitting there, which is good, because some reels they'll rattle and clonk and all sorts, but that's fine. The handle, again, tiniest amount, but nothing to worry about. A little bit of give, but not too much, because whenever you get loose joints like this, it means things aren't fitting 100%. And that rattling is what eventually wears your reels out. You find as you get older reels, they'll start to rattle here, and this will start to rattle, and your spool will rattle. The spool moves a little bit, but again, it's not too bad. So there you have that. That's the Stinger. Right, what we're going to do now is we're going to take this away, and here's one I prepared earlier. I always wanted to say that. This is actually the same reel, identical, only this one's had its head ripped off, as you can see there, and all the other bits here. This one actually, this seam on this one's a slightly bit rougher, but again, it's not bad for a plastic spool. So anyway, what we've done is we've taken out, if you ever take these apart, these on this particular mate, there is a small screw up here, so you are going to need to take this top off. Some reels you can get away with just taking the plate off here. This one you do actually have to take a little screw out of there to remove this plate, so it means this top part has to come off. So if you don't like pulling reels apart, then don't. They're pretty straightforward fixed spools. Multipliers can be a little bit more tricky with springs and things, but fixed spools generally are very, very similar. So what we're looking for in here is to see what the parts are made of. Now this Yeah, they use some weird metal composite kind of plastic things these days. I mean, it looks alright. You've got your standard ball bearings, which pretty much you get in most reels around the top here. What we're looking for as well is, what I tend to do with fixed spools when I get fixed spools is I will get a fixed spool, a new one like this, and straight away I will take this casing off. I will then pack this with waterproof grease. You can get waterproof grease in marine stores, or where they sell outboard engines and that, they use it there as well. So buy yourself a tub of waterproof marine grease, and then I pack the grease in around this. That will make your reel last a lot longer. You can do it on multipliers as well, although with multipliers just stay away from the spool. If you've got a casting multiplier, you only want oil on that, or you will slow down your cast. With these sort of reels, it doesn't matter so much. You can pack the grease in there. You can get different grades of grease as well, thin stuff, thick stuff. Pick whatever you want. I tend to go from medium to thick, usually more so medium, and that way it stays on the gears better, and that the thin grease will tend to spread out a bit more and push to the sides. And that they've probably used thin grease in here because it makes a nice smooth reel and easy to spin. So like I say, pack it, get it around the bearings and that, because if water gets in your bearings, if they are steel, which quite often they are, they'll rust up and then they'll seize, and you'll just be spinning on that, which basically eventually wears stuff out. I mean, it'll last for a while, but it'll wear out. And even if you do pack in the grease and you do get some rust in there, the grease will help to prevent that wear. So if you're confident, like I said, pulling reels apart, there's nothing much to them in most cases, not fixed spools anyway. Now what we're going to do is take this off. Let me just take it over here and do this because it's a little bit awkward in front of the camera. There we go. Right. Now this reel actually is surprisingly good. You'll see there's actually a lot of grease in it. It needs to be spread around a little bit more, but that grease is actually very good for this reel. Quite often you'll get reels, I mean, you'll see on there's a lot of grease on there. You'll get reels like this that have hardly any grease in whatsoever. And you really need to grease them up. If water gets in this reel, and although they might have all these covers and that, water will always find its way in through the smallest of cracks, especially if the reel takes a dunk. But if you pack it with grease instantly, you've prolonged the life of your reel, because usually they don't put enough in. In this case, they've actually, I would say they've got plenty of grease in there. There's no need to put any more in there. It might just need spreading around a little bit. But overall, this is pretty good for grease. I mean, put as much as you like in there. You know, you could pack out the whole case if you wanted it completely waterproof. But no, that's actually surprisingly good. I've opened up reels before and it's literally had the finest layer of oil in it. Absolute useless. You know, so get the grease in there and fix that. Now all these parts pretty standard. This is just like an alloy kind of cog. You've got your standard bearings on, which are probably steel, I would have thought. And you've got, I think this is a chromed, looks like a chrome brass bar. Some are stainless. You'll find that on the slightly more expensive reels. Not that it makes much difference, because what you'll find with reels like this is when things break, it's normally like the gears, the bearings, those sort of things. These cogs will snap off if they slip. And that's something else you've got to watch. If you ever get one that slips, these reels, what you do is, if you get a slipping one, you'll need to put a washer in around here just to tighten this down. Because what happens is, when you're cranking like this with the handle, you get a sort of twisting action like this, and when the casings are plastic or the wrong kind of metals, or carbon's actually quite a bad one, it can flex under strain, and that's what causes the gears to slip quite often, or just a badly fitting reel. But overall it looks pretty good. So like I say, what I'll do is, this will be tested. I will be using these reels and I will let you know how we get on with it and how it performs. But like I say, that will be a pinned post below the video, and we'll see how we get on in the future.